Hello, this is your introduction to our shoe drawing project. So, what are these shoes communicating to us? Now, these shoes actually belong to Haley Steinfeld. She's an actress and singer, and these are actually lace-up boots. Now, what are these shoes communicating to us? Now, these shoes actually belong to Robert Downey Jr., and you can see he's wearing them at a red carpet event. And what are these shoes communicating to us? Interestingly, these shoes belong to Pittsburgh Steelers wideout Antonio Brown, football player. The cleats actually are designed to honor Muhammad Ali, who was a boxer. And actually, Brown was forced to change out of them or else he couldn't play. And what are these shoes communicating to us? You might even recognize where they're from. Now, these shoes actually belong to Forrest Gump from the movie Forrest Gump, played by Tom Hanks. And these are his shoes after he's done a lot of running. And what are these shoes communicating to us? So these shoes actually are called Kusa shoes. It's an Australian brand, and they're made to feel like you're walking on soft grass. And the sandals are fashioned with synthetic turf material that will feel softer and more cushier with each wear. So actually it becomes more cushy as you keep wearing the shoes. Now, some shoes are actually designed for a specific purpose, such as ice skating or these light up shoes, and even these shoes that are actually worn by geisha in Japan. And then there are just some cool looking shoes, like these really bright blue ones, or these shoes that have actually space to store fish, or even these shoes that kind of look like feet. As you are realizing, shoes can reveal aspects of our personality, our identity, our culture, and profession. These are track running shoes, right? So when we look at these shoes, we know this person runs a lot. These shoes show another part of our personality. And these shoes actually are fashioned after the movie Clueless, and they even include the famous line, "Ugh, as if." Now, these shoes are actually created by people. They can't afford to buy shoes, so they have to actually make their own. And these shoes are actually made using a pair of twine and plastic bottles that have been flattened. And yes, there are actually organizations that visit poor areas of the world to help people actually have pairs of shoes, because the thing is, as we get older, our feet change, our feet grow, so we do often need to get new pairs of shoes over time. So this is our shoe drawing project. The goals are to utilize your observational drawing skills to replicate a pair of shoes of your choice. The use of line is integral in giving the shoes three-dimensional form. We're using contour lines to create the drawing. So the way these shoes were positioned in the composition is to communicate that the student loved to dance, so the shoes are moonwalking. Here's another example of shoes that were completed by an Art 1 student. Now, these shoes were actually fairly darker, which is why there's a lot of pen texture on the surface to create these different areas of value. You can see the way these shoes were tucked very close to each other. What does this arrangement say about the person? So, for this arrangement, the person steps on their own toes, which is a metaphor that sometimes they get in the way of themselves. So that's why the shoes are actually positioned in this way. This student feels that they need someone to lean on. So when they arranged their shoes, they wanted the shoes leaning on each other. Does this student feel shy? Right? Again, think about the way that the shoes are positioned. Now, these shoes actually are going two separate directions. One shoe's going one way, one shoe's going the other way. Now notice, later on, we're going to actually cover our drawings with pen. Notice the quality of the line here. We're actually going to practice this later on. We're not just simply using pen just to color things in. We're changing up the line weight. We're creating values and textures using lines. So the project objectives are to use observational drawing techniques to create contour drawings of a pair of shoes that demonstrate proper proportion and arrangement. We're also understanding ways that objects communicate identity and a feeling of belonging, control the line quality in drawing to create a 3D form, identify the edges and surface ridges of shoes through contour drawing, use pen and ink to create texture and value, that'll happen much later, and to demonstrate excellent craftsmanship skills by keeping the drawing paper clean with no smudges, rips, or stray pencil marks. And this is the project. So you will create on paper 9 by 12 a drawing of a pair of shoes, a contour drawing. We should see 2 shoes together. The shoes are your visual reference. That means we're not working from pictures anymore. This means the shoes should be in front of you as you draw. Sketches will start in pencil, and then we'll later transfer them onto another piece of paper where we'll go over it using pen and ink. The trick is to start with a basic shape outline. Build up the texture and value. You're not creating a background, and there's no shadows to be included. The shoes should fill most of the page though. So, next class period, bring in a pair of shoes. If you're not sure, bring in a couple pairs of shoes. Now, I do say no flip-flops because there's not enough to draw, no thin or dainty sandals, and no white Vans sneakers. If you bring in black Crocs, those can be actually difficult to draw because the surface is dark and it's harder to see the details. If your shoes are black, you're going to have to decide how to show the texture and surface later on. It doesn't mean we're just coloring our shoes in black. Now, your shoes can be owned by you or owned by a family member. Just make sure you get their permission before you take it to school because you will need these shoes every day for this project. So you're going to be saving these shoes in room 11. Again, please do not bring in these types of shoes. There's just not enough to draw and there's not enough details. This is an example of black Crocs. They can be a little difficult to draw because if you don't have enough light, it's hard to see what is there. And then your drawing will be really difficult. Now, these are some good examples. I do have a separate slideshow that has student examples of both the pen and ink as well as just the finished contour drawing in pencil. Now this example here is half completed. You can see part of it with the pencil and the other part with the pen. Now this is a great sketch. The outline is very good, but unfortunately the student did the bare minimum in terms of the details and creating some of those textures. Now this is a not so good example. One, there's only one shoe, and also the proportions seem a little odd. Now your next steps is to practice sketching shoes using photo references in order to learn how to draw the details, the edges, as well as just becoming familiar with the parts of shoes. This is so when you come to class next time, you have your pair of shoes to actually start sketching.